Hello, grade 12s. Hopefully, you're doing pretty well. We've talked about lesson one already. We talked about a little bit about purchasing a new vehicle. Sorry, my tripod is not cooperating with me. So we're gonna be moving on to leasing a new vehicle. Okay, so you should already have these notes on you as you're going by. Um, Again, there's a lot of background information that kind of goes with this. So I'll talk a little bit about the background information. A few things that I'll ask you guys to read on your own. A lot of it is self-explanatory. It just talks about the comparison between buying or purchasing a new car outright and whereas you're leasing a car. So again, we'll talk about what it means to lease a car, what sort of implications and what type of mindset should you have as you're leasing a car, and then certain examples of situations where you lease, and you have to take into consideration other factors as well. There will be some calculations that I'll go over pretty in depth. So what I'll talk about now is a little bit more of the detailed information about leasing a new vehicle. So I'll highlight a few points, and what I mean by few, quite a bit. So as you're going through, you can also highlight and find the important points. I might stop at certain points and just kind of explain what it means. Again, a lot of it is really self-explanatory. So again, leasing the vehicles, a little bit of an introduction, advantages and disadvantages, certain conditions, typical conditions in a contract when you're leasing out a car. So let's start with our intro. All right, so the introduction to leasing a car. So rather than purchasing a new vehicle outright or purchasing it through financing, you can also do what's called a lease. So when you lease the vehicle, you pay a given monthly leasing fee for a specific number of months. So that's something that you negotiate with the dealership and the salesman or salesperson. Whatever certain months, there's usually a set period of months that you can pay for a specific period of time. At that point, at the end of your specific time, you can either choose to purchase that car, or you can just be like, I'm done, and you can lease another vehicle. So it's almost like you're kind of hopping on a bandwagon. You ride the wave for a little bit. You might not necessarily like the car that you're driving anymore, so you just wait till the time expires, and then you kind of just move on. You're just like, well, I just want to lease another one. But you do also have the option to buy at a certain price, depending on the car manufacturer and on the dealership. Okay, so leasing a vehicle is a popular option as it has advantages of little or no down payments. So you're not putting any sort of payment on there. And you also have monthly payments that are relatively reduced compared to purchasing a vehicle outright. However, leasing a vehicle also has downsides. As this is a key point, you actually never own the vehicle. And technically, at the end of the lease, you don't own it either, right? So from the point of the lease to the end, you don't actually have any sort of ownership on the vehicle itself, which kind of makes sense there. Next part is things that you have to consider. So something you have to consider before making decision is if you intend to trade in your vehicle every 2 to 3 years, then yeah, we said it before, leasing is probably an attractive option for you. But something like if you intend to keep your vehicle for longer periods of time, or if you drive more than 25,000 kilometers per year, you probably find leasing to be a more expensive option. One of the rule of thumbs in the car business, kind of whole idea of owning a car, something you need to know about cars is that typically 20,000 kilometers is your rule of thumb for how much you drive. Okay, so people take that 20,000 per year they drive, and look at kind of the life year of a car. So the idea that you're driving 25,000 kilometers per year is just above average of. So the whole idea is that you're going to be driving that car for a long period of time. It's probably an option not to actually lease, but rather buy the car through finances or just outright. Next part, leasing a vehicle. So when you purchase a vehicle, you own that vehicle once you're done paying back your vehicle loan. When you lease a vehicle, you do not own the vehicle at the end of the lease, as we mentioned before. That's an important distinction to remember. Okay. So instead, you have just paid for the use of the vehicle. Is the whole idea is you're paying for the use, but you never actually own it. And the idea that you do have a lower monthly income from that. With leasing, you may have the option of putting money to save each month from your lower monthly payments into more productive investments. So leasing, again, if you're leasing something, you do have the option to use the money for other purposes. So if you want to, you have larger groceries that you have to pay for, you're paying for a mortgage, or you're just investing in other things, leasing is probably a much more attractive option, just because the monthly payments are much lower. Okay. Conditions of a lease. Okay, so these are the things that are typically in a contract that you really need to understand. General conditions. So some conditions may include in here the number of kilometers you may drive each year and the term number of years of the lease. So we talked about number one. Okay, number of years that you might be holding in a lease or number of months, and also. Okay, they might negotiate the number of kilometers you drive in that year. So like I said, general rule of thumb is about 20,000 kilometers. So it might be less than that. I wouldn't think it would be more than that. But it all depends again on the contracts that you're dealing with. Okay. So if you do decide on a lease, some of the things or the bullet points that you do have to take into consideration are the extra kilometers driven, the excess wear and tear on the vehicle, or ending your lease early. All of those things can result in paying extra on your lease. So if you do decide to lease, you really have to honor the contract, or there are certain stipulations in which you will be charged. Okay, so take a look at those bullet points and just make sure that makes sense. Okay, so Mr. A, what happens at the end of the lease? Okay, well, that's a good question to ask. Okay, so you have a couple of things. Like I said before, you can return the vehicle, okay, or you can purchase the vehicle for what's called a guaranteed residual value. Okay, so what that means is you get an estimate on how much the vehicle will be worth after being used for the length of the lease. Okay, so whatever that amount is, it's usually evaluated by the dealership, or could be by a mechanic as well. But after you're done, we option to buy or option to lease again. If you do want to buy, there is a certain price at which you will pay for, depending on the price, as I mentioned before. But we call that the guaranteed residual value. Make sure you highlight that point, because it will come back again for you. Okay. So be sure, as I said, to include that in your definition. The next part, okay, is the comparison between the advantages and disadvantages of leasing or buying a vehicle. So take a read at that. Take a look at that. If you have any comments, questions, you can always Skype me, give me a message, ask me. I'm more than happy to help. Talks about new vehicles versus purchasing purchasing a new vehicle versus leasing a car. Okay, but what we're gonna get down to are these examples. So I'm gonna go a little bit more into detail in the next part of these examples, where we actually have to involve certain calculations with this. All right, so let's take a quick look at example one, and let's go through exactly what these calculations mean. So the question asked, a minivan sells for $28,500 plus tax, can be leased at 24 months at $479 per month plus taxes. Okay. Also, a down payment of $3,275 is required. The guaranteed residual value of the vehicle is 65% of the sales price. That will come in handy later. We'll talk about that after. What we're going to talk about first is, we're going to highlight is first, I'll zoom in here a little bit just so you can see, $28,500 plus tax. Okay, for the actual sales of the car. We're going to lease it at 24 months for $479. Okay, per month plus taxes. That's going to be important information for the first question. And the down payment of $3,275. Okay, those are some key information that you have to kind of highlight and make sure when you're doing questions like this, what numbers to multiply and what not. So the first question it asks is calculate the total monthly leasing payment. Okay, so we're going to be focusing just on the leasing. So it says here $479 per month. Okay, but we also have to include the sales tax. Okay, well, the sales tax in Manitoba is 12%, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply $479 multiplied by the sales tax in this case. You can either do it one of two ways. You can either multiply by 12%, or you can go 479 times 1.12. But what you have to keep in mind in the first question here, in this first set here, is whatever you get here, you're going to have to add to the total of 479. So when we actually do the final calculations, you should get a value of 536.48. Okay, and then when I calculate it for this, I'm just gonna pull up my calculator on my computer here. Okay, so when I multiply 479 multiplied by 1.2, okay, I get 57.48. Okay, I have to add this to this number. So 479 plus 57.48. If I add those, and you can do it, you can calculate it as I'm going through, plus 57.48 should get me $536.48. Okay, so the same thing for both questions. It should work. Okay. So that's how you do A. So when it's just looking for the monthly leasing payment, you have to take what the lease is going to be financed at, so 24 months for 479, and multiply it by the sales tax. That's sort of the formula that you use in this case. All right, for part B now, it's asking calculate the total amount paid by the end of the lease. Okay, so we need to find out the whole thing. So this is the formula you're going to use. So you're going to have to copy this down as I'm going through. We're looking for the down payment. So there was a down payment plus, okay, the monthly leasing payments. Okay. When we add both of those numbers up, that's how we get the total amount paid by the end of the lease. So we've already found the monthly leasing payment in this case. We should have gotten 536.48. Okay, we want to multiply that by 24. Okay, we're going to put that in brackets, and it's going to equal something. But we also want to include the down payment. Okay, well, the down payment in this case, in the information as you look through, should have been $3,275. Okay, so when we add all of this up together, okay, we should get a value of $16,150.52. Okay, so that's how you do B. Looking for the down payment, which was given, okay, plus the monthly leasing payment. Multiply the number of months. So the number of months could change depending on the contract you're dealing with here. All right, so I'm just fixing this up. So depending on the contract you're dealing with, it could be more months, could be less months, but you have to include the number of months in this case, plus the monthly payment. Should get you that. Okay, all right. So for part C, the question asks, We're looking for the calculated total residual value of the minivan, including the tax. So remember, at the end of the lease, we do have the option to buy the car at a certain amount. It did say that 65% of the original sales tax. So if the original in this case was $28,500, okay, we want to multiply that by 0.65, okay, which is also 65%. Or you can multiply it in another way. But you should get $18,525, okay, for the guaranteed. But you also have to take into consideration the sales price, including tax. So anything that asks for including tax in the question, we have to include the tax. So in this case, we're multiplying sales tax 1.12. Again, this is the Manitoba rate. We're dealing with Manitoba taxes here. So 1.12 should get you a total of 20,740. That's a 4 now. $48. Okay, again, you have all of these answer keys in the examples below. I'm just kind of going and explaining it through you. Okay, last but not least, part D on example 1. Okay, it asks you to calculate the total cost of the vehicle if it's purchased outright at the end of the lease. Okay, so this is our formula in which we have to pay. So the total cost of the vehicle if purchased outright at the end of the lease should be our down payment. Oh, can't see that. Our down payment plus the total of all monthly leasing payments, plus the total of all monthly leasing payments, which, okay, plus, in this case, our total guaranteed residual value. So we're going to add 3 different elements here. Our down payment, a total of all monthly leasing payments, which we found in both answers, on top of the guaranteed residual value. Okay, in this case, total residual value. Okay, so in this case, what we're adding really is 3,275 plus the $12,875.52 on top of, in this case, 16,150.52. Okay, so down payment, in this case, the total for all of our monthly payments by the end of the lease. We found that on part B. Okay, and then on part C, the residual value in this case would have been the 20,000. Okay, so we have our monthly down payments. We have our down payment, our monthly leasing statements, and our total residual value. Okay, so when we add all of these numbers together, we should get a value of $36,898.52. You'll notice that this value is a lot more than the original sales price of the car. The reason is because you have, when you're leasing or you're loaning stuff, you're actually paying extra payments, total interest, taxes, whatever it may be. You're paying a little bit more. So the answer to D, looking for the total cost of the vehicle purchased outright at the end of the lease, would be this much. Okay. So again, down payment, total of all monthly leasing payments, and residual value. You have all of this in your notes to help you as well. We're going to go to example 2. All right, so before you get to example 2, this is going to come in big handy dandy because again, it talks about example 1 is financed at the end of the lease by a 3-year car loan, a fixed amount rate of 6%. You're going to be having to look through the amortization table in order to find that out. So let's try example 2 together. A asks for calculate the monthly payment on the guaranteed residual value again. In the notes, it says 3-year car loan at a fixed rate of 6%. So if we look through, we have our annual rate of 6% here. I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. So we have 6% here, and we want 3 years. So not 1, 2, but a 3-year monthly payment. So in this case, our value is going to be 30.43. That value is going to be important when we put it into the formula. Okay, so the next part now it's asking for is that guaranteed residual value. Well, we did it in part 1 in question C. Okay, so the answer to C, when it said calculate the total residual value of the minivan including tax, again, if we look at C, we have it at 18. We recorded it, but I'm just going to show you again. So 18,525, but we also have to take in consideration the taxes that we pay on this. So multiplied by 1.12 gets us to a value of 748. So $20,748,000. So that is our guaranteed residual value. 20,748. I completely messed that up. So the next part now with these two values is we're going to put it into our monthly payment because we want to know the monthly payment in this case. With our residual value, we have to use our formula. So monthly payment in this case. So the monthly payment, okay, equals the rate times the price over $1,000, which is what we're going to do now. So it looks like this. So 30.43, call this A. In this case, it's multiplied by the price. Residual price was $20,748 over 1,000, which should equal to a monthly payment of $631.36. Monthly payment. Boom. All right. So that's for example A. All right, so I just recopied it over here just so it's a little bit cleaner. So again, we talked about A with monthly payment. We got the rate in this case, 30.3, multiplied by our residual value over 1,000. In our formula, we should get that much amount for monthly payments. Now the monthly payments, it's asking for B is total monthly payments. Because it's a 3-year loan, and we know that in 3 years there's 36 months because there's 12 months per year. We want to know total payments over that 3 years. Well, we multiplied that 36 months, multiplied by, in this case, how much we pay per month, $631.36, and we should get a value of, over the lifetime of, $22,728.96. That's how much we pay over the 3 years with the residual value in case. That is for part B. All right, so C asked, calculate the total amount of paid for the minivan if the guaranteed residual value is paid through this financing that we're using. Okay, so the 3 points that we have to add together is 1, down payment, 2, the total of all monthly leasing payments plus the total cost of financing the guaranteed residual value in this case. So those 3 values are, well, our down payment again was $3,275. Okay, plus the total of all monthly leasing payments, which would have been $12,875.52. Plus, when that's all added together in this case, the total cost of financing the guaranteed residual value, so we want to add that number too as well, $22,728.96. When we add all these numbers together, we get $38,879.48. And that's for C. So next few examples, I'll give you time to practice that. So example 3, which talks about a purchase price, just keep in mind that you have to also include the tax. So when it says plus PST and GST, include the tax. And example 4 gives you another type of example of what we just did with example 1 and 2. So if you have any questions, just go back through the video. If you have any other questions, just shoot me an email, message me, you know where to get me. And I can also help you one-on-one through Skype. By the time you get this video, we will probably be working on MS Teams. So that's another way of communicating with me. And again, you can always go through the solutions and information as we go by. So have a good day, grade 12s, and we'll see you soon.